Are you ready?
Yeah.
Good.
Everybody do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Here we are. Mark, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Reader's Digest.
it's the Planning Board. Today is January 14th, 2016, where we have a joint meeting with the Steering Committee and the Consultant Selection Committee. Consultant Selection Committee, Paul Avella will present an overview of the process and results of the Consultant Selection Committee's proposal review and consultant review process. Let's see, Maren, Paul, do you want to start, or Maren, will you be starting?
Whenever you want me to do the brief.
Okay, we might as well get going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, pleasure to be here with you this evening. Paul Lavelle, as you know. I also have members of the Steering Committee and also of the Steering Committee Subcommittee for Selection Committee. And two of your members are on the Steering Committee, and the chairman is also on the Selection Committee. We're here tonight, though, to present the briefing, our brief, so to speak, of what we work towards and the recommendation that we're going to be making to you tonight. So the actual purpose is to provide you all with a recommendation as to who we think is the people that did respond to our RFP, our request for proposal, who might be the best ones that could serve the needs of our town in helping us update our master plan. The schedule, as you can see, this dates back, and if you recall, it's a joint appointment to the Steering Committee from you all and the Board of Selectmen. We were able to get our first organizational meeting back in April of this past year. So you can see April being the fourth month and the first month of the following year, so we're almost 9 months into this process now. What we're going to be doing tonight is making that recommendation and then moving forward, contract award, and looking for an eventual completion so that your approval and acceptance of a master plan update, and then our ability to present it at town meeting of May of 2017 is our schedule at this point. Process. So we did get the update steering committee together and put together an RFP. We had various people come together. We put together a selection subcommittee. Of that, 4 members from the Master Plan Update Committee themselves, plus our planning administrator, Maren, and then assistant town manager, dismissed that, town administrator, finance, Bonnie, and town moderator of past, but now town moderator Carlisle, to do this. Anyways, so the subcommittee reviewed 4 submissions that we received from the RFP. Reduced 3 of them to interviews, and then once we had the interviews and were complete, going through the proposals themselves, through a consensus, we arrived at basically 1, 2, 3, if you will, and then codified it in a vote, and it was a unanimous vote. Okay, so how we're all organized. Town meeting, as you know, authorized in front of the master plan update. You all, again, as I said, with the Board of Selectmen, jointly appointed us, again, back in April was that first meeting. The way we started off to try and get ourselves a little bit smarter on the entire process is we had Mark Rassicott from the MAPC. He was our vice president here of the MAPC. Our town administrator, Keith, also is a member. Anyway, what we did also is we wanted to get the feel of the town as best we could. Certainly all our meetings were open, but to reach out to different constituencies. And our various towns, town boards and committees in town kind of have different constituencies, if you will. So we did have all of our members liaise with a couple of different boards and or committees and go make presentations to these boards and committees in their public meetings, and then any opportunity we had, follow on to meet with folks there. And then other town boards and committees, and we had actually quite a few grouped people in here, one of them, and really a listening phase. Tell us what you think, and we try to do that. And that was all as part of putting together this RFP. And we had master plan committee members from other towns come visit us also and give us their insight, and they were in various stages themselves. Some having completed maybe a year ago and already accepted them, and some in the process of actually going about being able to accept their new ones themselves. And then numerous meetings as we had before we actually released the RFP. So what were the priorities? And the priorities came, this is straight out of the RFP. We're a small municipality. We're near 495. Okay, there's the geography. We want to make sure folks realize that. Where do we want to be in 10 years? And how do we get there through the process over those next 10 years? And certainly, let's not just rehash things that may have been done in the past, but let's try and really integrate some new concepts. When we start looking at funding details, because the grandest idea, if it's way too expensive for us, was going to be useless. So we want to make sure, as a priority, that any consultant realize there are fiscal constraints. And as we go through this, you'll see that some folks actually pay pretty good attention to that. Details on the various metrics, how are we going to measure our progress towards where we want to be? It's an implementation plan, so we can have, again, a great plan, but if we don't know how to implement it, it's going to be useless also. Capital improvement needs, we've got a very good program here in town already, but another set of eyes on that is going to be helpful for us also. Capture and express the values of the town. Somewhat nebulous, we often talk about the character of Littleton, what it may be, and various different people are going to have different thoughts. We're going to try and bring that together and develop that consensus, and that's going to be one of the major jobs that we believe for this consultant to do for us. And then provide a maintenance process, if you will. So again, those good ideas, but how do we keep them going? Anything that should be moving towards in perpetuity, or at least have some sort of recurring basis, what are we going to do to be able to make that happen? So these are the priorities that we presented to the various people that respond to RFP. And what are the major areas? Well, methodology, how are you going to go about your plan? What are you going to do to staff it? The depth of experience that the particular consultant may have, their ability and knowledge. We wanted to look at their references, so past performance, if you will, at other towns. And we made certainly quite a few inquiries that way. Their budget and schedule, so their past performance on that. How did they stick to their budget, and how did they stick to schedule? So we saw that as being very important. Then certainly we wanted to have people who already have some degree of familiarity with Littleton, not coming in cold, and as soon as they get the contract, boom, now let me learn how to spell Littleton. So that was an important area for us, too. Who responded to us? RK Associates, you can see it from Quincy, Massachusetts, and underneath would be each of their subs, their vendors, and any associates that they were bringing along with them. So you can see with RK Associates, Dodson and Finkler, Community Circle, Community Opportunities, then VHB from Watertown, Nanwise LLC, and then just Glenn Garber, who's a master planner himself, and then the Cecil Group out of Boston with Green International, who we all know very well here in the town of Littleton, and then FXM Associates with the Cecil Group, and the MAPC. And as you can see there, the MAPC we did not invite to an interview. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through, in order, the 4 respondents, give you just a little bit about them, what we thought about the proposal, and what came out of the interviews with them, give you some highlights, and then hopefully that develops. And if we've done this well and we're presenting well to you this evening, who we think is the recommendation for you all should be obvious. We'll see. No quiz, though. Anyways, with MAPC, the proposal, certainly we felt that the skill set that they were showing financial and economic areas was the lowest rated from our perspective. The staffing list, they have some very, very good people there. In fact, if you look at a listing of folks at MAPC, you see strong, strong folks who are employed by the organization. The staffing list presented to us, though, he said the least amount of insight there. And then really their master plan projects were somewhat limited in our view, and at that, the experience had been with another company, not with MAPC themselves. And those were the main reasons, and again, we thought through this, and we excluded them from the interview process. The Cecil Group, certainly the proposal scored very well, so when we looked at it. But here's where we ran into a little bit of a difficulty with the Cecil Group, and that is during the interview process. Cecil is the prime, Mr. Cecil, and you can see, put up there, dominated the interview, and he really did, and to the exclusion of his teammates. And we really thought, Green International has a very good reputation here in town, would have been given the opportunity to speak, I would think, at length to us, and that did not happen. And at times, Mr. Cecil would actually even cut some of his folks off when they were trying to make a point to us. And with that, our recommendation is that they not even be considered. PHB, again, proposal scored very well, good depth of experience with the staff, extensive experience with master plans in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, so certainly they know the area. Sustainability, you're going to hear that a couple of times, and sustainability is going to take on a life of its own in many ways, because the word sometimes gets used just as a cliche, if you will. Well, I want a sustainable future. Okay, I got it. We all want to be sustainable because we eat and drink and sleep and rest and show up to work each day. So what do we mean by sustainability? I'm not going to go into a definition so much, but it was a major point for us. So we're talking about environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and we wanted to make sure that they would talk to us. And again, VHB did very well there. And importantly, industry awards, they had some relevant awards that we found impressive. The interview itself scored well also, but you can see we had a couple of concerns. We thought there was not enough interaction that was going to occur with the town and the residents of the town as to how they proposed to us. And even during the interview, it didn't come across that, well, maybe we missed something in the proposal and that the interview would tease it out. That really didn't occur. And then that broad stroke we'd like to see in economic development wasn't there also. That said, we do see them as a possible candidate to service our town. RKG, as you can see, merged to the top. The project manager, very highly experienced. And in fact, the presentation, there was an intimacy, if you will, from the get-go. The presenter had a feel on how to do this and do it well. And you began to say, I like this person, I like this team, and there was a good feeling amongst the members of the selection committee as to why RKG would do well. So that interview is put up there, collegial, enthusiastic, possessed best vision, logical, easy manner, and it really flowed, almost in an avuncular character, except it was a lady. But nevertheless, it was very well done for us. The understanding of outreach, sustainability, we talked about that already, the economic development and community development. And then the fiscal constraints, and they had a very good capture, if you will, captured that well for us, and recommend to you overall. So there was no one perfect candidate. The real discriminators for us came from the interviews themselves. The proposals were certainly well done, and I don't want to say it's easy to do a good proposal, but in our opinion, it was easier to do a good proposal than to do a good interview. So the interviews really swayed things for us. And the basic question was, who would we like to work with? And the we is Littleton. So as representatives of Littleton on the selection committee said, who is we as a town would like to work with? And as I said, we arrived at a consensus, voted unanimously, and here's our recommendation to you, is that the planning board pursue a contract award to RKG. Should RKG not work out for fiscal purposes, we see VHB as a viable backup. We would not recommend to you Cecil or MAPC for award. Question, sir?
Yeah, I do. What's economic development? What does that mean?
Okay. What are we doing here in town? We've got an economic development committee, for example. What are we looking at? We can talk about the common area, we can talk about Foster Street, the various different locations in towns. How do we continue? Because we're on a pretty good path now. If we look at the point, we're bringing some businesses into town. What other businesses can we bring into town? What other business that we have in town now that we set the stage, the circumstances for them to be more successful than they already are? So that's what we're looking at. How do we change a ratio that we have now when we look at roughly 79% residential tax supporting the town and 21% business supporting the town? How do we change that ratio so that the business proportion becomes a little bit bigger, so that the burden begins to be lessened upon the residential taxpayer? Things that contribute to that is economic development. And
Meaning what, though?
John, jump in, please.
But, I mean, more specifically, like, that's broad stroke stuff, but I mean, what are we talking about? Zoning mixes?
Zoning is part of it.
Incentives? What do we?
Well, we could go down a litany, but remember, we're asking these people to come out and help us here, too.
No, I know, but I mean, you evaluated those
Their
people on
proposals
those
towards us.
characteristics, so we must have some definition in mind of what that means. I'm a little unclear on what that means. I thought master plan was a zoning exercise.
No, master plan is much more than just a zoning exercise. In fact, that's a subset of it. Housing production plan, for example, is a piece of it, which is actually a very large piece of a master plan. So when we look at it, and certainly I'd commend you to go to the website and see what the 2002 one looks like, and that'd give you a pretty good head start, because we did use that as our point of departure. So economic development, I don't want to give you a school box definition, I don't think. Is that what you're looking for, Jerry?
I just wanted to know what parameters were in
Okay.
consideration for economic development.
Did I scratch the itch for you, though?
Not really. I'll read up on it.
All right, and as we go along too, if I haven't through other things, ask me again and make sure I get what you need, please.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
All right.
No, I think the board's done a wonderful job
sussing it out, and I'm sure that you guys gave them a nice overview of what Littleton is and where we hope to be in the future and who's gonna lead us there. I'm all in favor of what you've accomplished, and I'm 100% behind it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Paul's absolutely right. I was on that, on the committee, and attended almost all the meetings, as did most of the people on that committee. It was a great effort by just about everybody that participated. The proposals were all very well done. It would have been very difficult to select a choice from the proposals alone. The interviews really were what made the difference, and it was interesting to watch the different proposers get up and talk. One really did stand out better than the other, one to me anyways, and with a close second. And we have them listed right here, but it wasn't just me. It was a majority of the people on the committee thought the same thing. And I know that I looked at them in terms of how best they would work with the people in town, because I've been through multiple different processes before, and this is, I think we're going to probably end up with a good choice here.
Yeah, it's who you're comfortable with. You're going to have to interact with them if they listen well, if they're in tune with where the town of Littleton is and everything. That's probably the most important part of it.
I
That's the
agree.
feel we came away with.
Yeah, I agree.
At the mark.
I agree, Mark. That's I think how we chose.
Good.
Going back to the interview process, when you were interviewing, you immediately said you didn't want to deal with Cecil. I'm just curious why another company that we use so frequently, Green International, would hitch their wagon with them and then be immediately excluded. Was Cecil that upsetting
Why
you?
Green decided to hitch their wagon, as you say, with Cecil is unknown to me. We did not inquire as to the purpose behind their teaming efforts, other than that they were. Why did we find the Cecil Group presentation not to our liking?
Outside of the commanding presence of the owner or the president, whatever his role might be, did they present any good ideas?
Well, as you noticed, I did say the proposal scored well. So there certainly were some good ideas. But that feel, as Mark eloquently stated, that who do we feel comfortable working with? We thought the interaction with the community is important, the ability to reach out and get people to come on into the fold, so to speak, and want to participate. We did not feel that as the presentation went that evening, that the Cecil Group would be the best of the ones presented to us. In fact, less than the best. We're recommending no, to flat out, because we did not see that persona, the atmosphere, if you will, that would be welcoming. That welcoming atmosphere, we just did not feel it.
Back in 2002, when we started, one of the critical parts of it was to get the residents who wanted to come to the meetings to feel welcome and feel comfortable. If you've got somebody that's overbearing and wants to take it, run it, and make his decisions our decisions, that's where you're going to run into trouble. If you need somebody that listens,
And that's
is engaging.
where I was going with that question, is that if that's the relationship we felt like we would have had with them, I just want to take another, maybe we should take a harder look at how we contract with Green in the future.
Here's what I would offer that. I'm offering you an opinion now. This is just PJ speaking to you, not for the committee, because we did not have this level of discussion. I would offer Green as certainly technical services, and we have Jim here in the audience that could jump in to, I think, put this one to bed in the best possible way. We asked them for technical services, and they're fantastic as far as, and Jim, if I overspeak, hit me, please. Not too hard, though. I'm stronger than I am. So from that perspective, I would not diminish anything about their reputation here in town. In fact, I would completely exclude that, because their technical services, from all my experiences, it's been on the Board of Selectmen and seen other things, is that they are wholly competent to do that. The Cecil Group now, as a vendor with his subs and whatever other vendors he may employ, just was not suitable for the town for the master plan update purposes, in our opinion.
Right.
Not so much based on their consultants, but it was the general presentation. I would
Your
say.
gut feeling. Let's call it what it is.
Duly noted.
Yeah, and I would say there was, in addition to gut feeling, it certainly was visceral, but I think also at an intellectual level, we thought that one through quite a bit. So there was data-driven, not just, I feel.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to deal with them for the next year and a half or 2 years, however long the process takes. You want to have a comfortable, easy feeling with them. You don't want it to be antagonistic, especially with your board or our board or the townspeople. You want somebody that is going to articulate well and is going to be engaging, not somebody that you have to worry because he's going to take over the whole meeting and run it his way or her way.
Correct, yeah.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Board did great. Selection committee did great. We'll take your advisement. We'll go with that, thank you.
And Maren was on the team with us also. Excellent, and thank you very much for all the help you provided the committee, for sure.
Thank you.
You need a vote from us, right? Is that what?
Yes,
Yeah.
and before I ask you for that, I've spoken with Keith about putting together a negotiating team also. It's your call. Certainly, part of this recommendation is that Keith, Bonnie, Maren, and whoever else you think appropriate, I think would be useful to negotiate directly with, if you accept our recommendation, RKG.
So that means any one of us could join that negotiation committee. Does anyone here want to be a part of that?
So before we ask who wants to, I want to ask Jerry, because he does do a lot of negotiating and interrogating, that if he'd be interested in doing it, only because I know his background kind of leads towards.
I would need to know what the basis we were negotiating on. You'd have to fill me in on, like, what a competitive bid looks like in that space.
We can make that decision from this board later, correct? You're just looking for the first.
Your call.
All right, how about if we have a little discussion at future date as to whom represents this board?
It'll be going forward right away. What'll happen is whoever comes up with a draft contract will go to the master plan update steering committee or the subcommittee for approval, and then they'll bring it to you for approval because you're the ones that contracting with the consultant.
Since you and Richard have been in it from the beginning, do one of you want
Then
to?
maybe we ought to get some fresh blood in there.
Well, that's what, I mean, I really, Jerry, I don't want to
Good call.
force you
That's a
into
good
it. I just
idea.
think it's
There
in your.
must be somebody on our staff that knows the ins and outs of
Right.
what this should look like from a bid perspective.
What it basically involves, Jerry, is during this, with the way you purchase consultants in the state of Massachusetts, after you go through the RFP process, you narrow it down to one. You don't open up their price proposals. They have a basically a summary proposal and a price proposal, and then you open up the price proposal on the first bidder, on the first choice, I should say. And if you don't come to an agreement as to how much and what services you want out of them, then you say no and part ways, and you go on to number two. That's the only way you can do the price proposals. Now, the kinds of things that you can look at and debate with a proposer would be how many meetings you want them to attend, or what are his hourly rates, for time material afterwards. But it pretty basic types of things, because they're already in the box. They're in our choice. And now what we want to do is see if they can do that choice for the money we got. If it turns out that, they come in at $300,000, well, it's not going to work, because we don't have that kind of money. And so you give them you give them a shot at saying, can you come down to our budget? If they say yes or no, then that's really a simple
That sounds pretty
decision.
basic.
Yeah, but when it comes to, if
You
they're
in?
under the
Good for
budget, then you work it.
I got faith in you.
Go ahead.
I think it's in your will.
I'd like to nominate Jerry, if you did.
I'll second it.
All right, I'll do it.
Good.
All right.
Well, we need to vote.
Jerry is appointed from us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the presumption is you want somebody from the steering committee?
That would be great.
Okay, you got it.
And Keith and Bonnie. Good.
And Maren.
And Maren, of course.
Not
yeah.
gonna let her off on
Yeah.
that.
So now we have to vote on accepting
On the recommendation.
on the
I'd like to make
recommendation.
a recommendation that we,
Here's the,
You know what you know what the meeting scope's gonna look like, right? I mean, you have a pretty good idea already. Let's,
I'd like to make a motion that the planning board vote and designate RKG as the #1 master plan consultant based on both their technical proposal interview and their interview.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Just practice it for the future.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd make
We'll
it-
move them over.
Now, Keith, we bypassed you in the discussion there, but,
No, I had, just for the record, I had recused myself from that process because, as was noted, I'm vice president of MAPC. MAPC had put in a proposal, and even though I don't, I don't have anything to do with the internal operations, they appoint the director, and so just kept out of it. And I had advised Mr. Avella that if there came a point, not to sway him one way or the other, but I said, if there came a point when the selected vendor turned out to be someone other than the one that I'm precluded from dealing with, then I could jump back into the process, so
here we are.
I'm back in. And I do think that when you review the price proposal, it's going to be the number of meetings, it's going to be the number of interactions
Right.
that determine, where we are with
Define the
budget.
price, of course.
And so that's
Great.
great.
Oh, boy, thank you all.
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming, but it's
This is,
looking good. It's
This
getting
is-
exciting.
Next.
yeah, this is a year's process to get to this
Behind?
point.
What we'll do is we will schedule a meeting. And as a side note, we did promise all vendors that the committee would help brief them as to why we went the way we did.
Right, and the timeframe for the entire process, once we have them on board, to the time the estimated timeframe, about, I think the number of months they suggested were 12?
I've done the integrated master schedule.
Yeah,
I took what I
They
wanted.
have 2017 to have it all wrapped
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Want the next piece?
Presented at town.
So town meeting a year
No,
from
it's
now.
up by the
that's
barn.
great.
killing it.
Okay. Well, thank you
Good
all.
night.
Yeah.
Great, well done.
Keith, you'll stick with us now.
There
for the
goes
next
half our
agenda.
crowd.
Stay for it.
Not going to stay for anything more? No, that's it?
Let you do your zoning thing.
Go Pats.
All right.
Do your zoning. How should we vote?
Patriots playing tonight?
No, Saturday.
Okay.
Would be it. Let's play.
We have housing production plan at 7:20. Keith, you want to lead us on that one?
I will, I just had some, that they'll put up on the big board.
Good. Now, this is an item that we started last fall, I believe.
Yeah.
Mass Department of Housing approved our updated housing production plan.
And
Back in,
and maybe just by way of quick recap, that, and I excerpted some things from a presentation I had made at a DHCD conference on Chapter 40B last October. It's about the third such conference I've been able to address, talking about what Littleton's been doing in housing. And I think we're doing some great things, and I was specifically taking part in a conference that was on proactive planning to achieve safe harbor. And I've worked in coastal communities for most of my career, 20 out of the 35 years, but in 40B, safe harbor means something else. And it means being safe from 40B, from unfriendly 40Bs. But I think that I came up with 3 definitions of safe harbor: safe, safer, and safest. And I would submit that Littleton is in the third category of safest, where just being safe is if you have a housing production plan, you're below 10%, you can achieve safe harbor, you can hold 40B off for 1 year or 2 if you meet your production goals from a housing production plan. We are above 10%, and we are above it based on our current census figure. So we are, at a minimum, we are at safer harbor, what I'm calling safer harbor. But even more than that, I think that our goal in Littleton has been to achieve safest harbor, that is to be above 10%, not only based on the current census, but based on our projection of what the next census is going to be, because that does change. Right now, Littleton is at 12.72%. So we are above our 10% goal, and that's because we have 438 countable subsidized housing units in our inventory, and based on 3,400 total units. We are going to max out at around 12.94%, probably later this year, when the remaining units from 15 Great Road come online. What we will then see is some erosion in the percentage figure. If we do nothing, we will see some erosion over time because our denominator will increase in the year 2020. What this shows is that for August of 2014, we were at 12.5%. Later this year, we'll be at almost 13%. In the year 2020, if with the number of units that we'll peak at, divided by what we're projecting is 3,900 year-round units, that will mean that what today counts as almost 13% will only count as 11.5%. Why? Because it's a fraction, and the denominator gets larger. We will then project that there will be the loss of some 50 so-called expiring use permits by the year 2024. Actually, I can update that. It's now projecting 2025, which is precariously close to 10%. And the expiring use permits are because back in the day, before, maybe 20, 30 years ago, affordable housing wasn't done as perpetual deed restrictions. They were done for 20 or 30-year periods. And we're seeing some units that will expire. So what we're looking at is within the next 10 years, there is the threat that we could fall to below 10% if, for example, if the denominator grows larger than we think. If there's more residential development in town than we think than we're projecting, then we will need to do more to increase the affordable units. So our strategy has been to remain master of our 40B destiny. And you do that by being a little proactive. That's why we did the housing production plan. We've got some other mechanisms that we use to try to achieve it, including host community agreements with at least 2 developers where we've been able to move some funds for housing purposes. We actively participate in a regional housing services office that does deed restriction and compliance monitoring that allows us to continue to count units, and that's important. And we also work with our housing authority and some housing authorities in the region to try to maximize that as a resource. So here's the report that was done, that was completed last December, approved by this board, and the selectmen unanimously. Was approved by the Department of Housing and Community Development in January. And it outlines a bunch of steps. These are the goals: to maintain our housing inventory above 10% through 2020 and beyond, to build community awareness to housing issues, address unmet housing needs, to adopt zoning changes that advance housing production, look at our capacity for housing development, and then promoting housing that supports healthy aging through location. For this board, there are some other of those things that can be done by others. The one that can be done by this board is the list of zoning changes. And we had a discussion back in the spring that one of the things that you might want to do is to consider an exclusionary zoning bylaw.
You remember that?
Yeah. So that since it was on the radar screen back when, and you had the support of the selectmen to undertake that. However, we didn't want it rushed to the annual town meeting last May. That it was felt that some more time needed to be taken to it. We didn't get to it. It was not part of what was done for the fall town meeting this year. But if there were still interest in either an inclusionary zoning bylaw or some other, or something else from the menu of zoning amendments, it would be well to have a discussion about that before the warrant closes. And this year, the warrant closes, as usual, the middle of March for the May town meeting. But that's really not a lot of time, so that if there were a desire to get going with some kind of zoning for the May town meeting, you really need to decide very soon to do that. If not for the May town meeting, you could target the fall. In light of the discussion we just had about the master plan update, and I would have the observation that be careful if you bring zoning to town meeting, be very careful, be very sure that you're targeting exactly why it needs to go forward and why you can't wait for the completion of the master plan. If we're now a year and a half away from the master plan, one of the things we often hear at town meeting is, well, why is this coming up now piecemeal? How come we're not waiting for town meeting? The discussion that we had about inclusionary zoning in the past was that maybe there was some land in play that might be developed one way or another, and that you wanted to have flexible tools to be able to deal with it now before it gets developed, rather than not having those things. So from my perspective, I'd simply suggest that if there are zoning initiatives that you want to undertake, please consider what those are, and then we can get going on them. So,
I have a question for you. Mind if I ask?
Go, please.
You said that 30 years ago, the 40Bs were just put in for 20 years and
yes,
whatever.
yeah.
Are there towns, we do it for longer periods now,
You do it for
Permanent.
in perpetuity?
When the zoning board of appeals issues a comprehensive permit for a 40B project now, all of the deed restrictions are in perpetuity.
Okay.
But decades ago, it was not that was
All right,
not
so the
the
one up on
standard.
Great Road, anything that's up there at 15 Great Road, any of those are all going to be in
That's-
perpetuity? So
That's in
because,
perpetuity.
yeah, the
yes.
ones that are down here on Mill Pond side,
They're not, they're the ones he's talking about.
they're the ones that are dropping
50.
off.
They have the potential to drop off.
Okay.
50 units at Mill
Oh, I
Pond.
had this earlier, but
Let me look it up.
so, but my question then ends up being is is Section 8 part of affordable housing?
It's
Anybody?
subsidized housing.
People that are on Section 8?
That's like, yeah.
Yes.
So if Pondside rents to someone that is in a Section 8 program, then that is part of the low income, isn't it?
If,
Yes
it's
or
a
no?
good, here's a good way to get the question. If DHCD says that even if it's not a perpetual deed restriction, even if the deed restriction has expired, if the property is still being used for affordable purposes, it's countable.
Okay.
So we can work with a property owner, and in fact, this is,
Well, then once,
To-
what I'm
to
trying to
keep
get
it
at is
accountable.
if that has 10, 15, 20, 30 people that are Section 8 or whatever, and they wish to continue to rent to the Section 8 program, then we need to tie those ones into perpetuity at that point. Why can't we?
well, you could,
Is that an absolute no, or is there
well,
a
you could,
possibility?
well, I think
could ask
the,
them.
I think the answer to that is that it could be a negotiation with the property owner, and that,
Have you
and what
explored
some,
that?
yeah, it's on the list of things for us to do. In fact, just as a practice, what communities can do is turn, finite deed restrictions into perpetual ones just by entering into a different business deal.
All right, they're also looking at building, 40, 50, 60, or 110 other units where the barking dog was originally going to go? Is that true?
They were looking at a smaller number of units, but they've walked away from that site.
So that's the entire thing, that wash their hands, there's nothing going in there.
That's what they said, yeah.
When did that happen, Maren? Because that was,
That was under discussion about a month or so ago.
it was.
Yeah.
And then it
they were doing their due diligence and decided not to move forward with anything.
Okay, that was it over at
All right, thank
Fawnside.
you for your answer on that.
Expand.
Yeah, but that's a 40B, and that's what we're trying to stop from coming in.
I mean, for example, that what doesn't count in our subsidized housing inventory now is the Kimball Farms on the common property.
Yeah.
But if the project that was originally permitted got built, as it was approved, you would add 27 units because it's 25% of 108 units. If it doesn't happen, you don't see it, but it's not counted because it was on our radar screen, it was on our list in 2007, it fell off, and you don't get them back on until they're actually,
When those were originally adopted, was that in perpetuity, or was that ones that would expire after an X amount of years also?
those would have been for perpetuity, in perpetuity.
So
If they're built and occupied, they would be in perpetuity.
Okay, so the feedback I was hoping for from you was, do you want to move forward with any of the recommendations from the housing production plan? If so, which ones, and what can we do?
Well, I
Well-
think we should finish what we started in the spring, which was the inclusionary zoning bylaw. For whatever reason, we abandoned that, like instantaneously. So
Okay,
we were almost
yeah.
there.
That's right.
And all we had needed was a proposal, she was gonna write it up, and we're gonna get the warrant put on, and that would give us the ability to allow or keep pace with the 10% mark at the discretion of the planning board and working with builders. I mean, there was a lot of tools in there.
Yeah.
I think there was like 4 or 5 options.
That's,
So why don't we just finish that? 'Cause we're almost there.
I agree.
One of the things that we need to do as far as, in part of that, I believe, is, speaking of the project that was going to go behind the church in the center of town, where some form of commercial entity. Well, you put one commercial and the rest were going to be
Goldsmith Street,
Goldsmith Street, where the rest were going to be residential.
Oh, yeah,
the little 12-unit
You know,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
And were they right in their opinion? Yeah. But that's not what we're looking for.
But
So we need to make sure that we have some form of,
exactly, that's what that inclusionary zoning bylaw would have allowed us.
to say, it's 50/50, it's 60/40.
We would have been able to put him
Not
in right
1
under
to
there.
99.
And he could have had as many as he wanted.
The loophole we need to close.
We could have created, part of that was creating a trust, so if he wanted to pump money into a housing trust in lieu of units, I mean, it was all those options were in there.
Yeah, but that's
but see,
not what I was
that-
looking for.
That's one of the problems, and everybody keeps asking about it. We want units, we don't want money.
Get the units.
We really need to, because if you're trying to
We
keep it at 10%.
need commercial more than we need residential, and more than we need protection against 40B. We need commercial. That's what the town needs, more than it needs
Well, that-
residences.
Okay, but
So-
that's kind of,
That's not what we're
Different
talking
topic.
about, though.
It's if we're gonna take an inclusionary zone, just like the one downtown, in their exact instance, they were gonna put
oh,
one
no, it's on
office.
his own. It's on his own.
Right.
Say,
It's not a physical location. It's,
Right. Inclusionary zoning means when you have a residential development, you have the tools in place so you could require them to include in some affordable units. The subdivision we just had in front of us, the Durkee.
Yeah,
farm.
Durkee Farm would have been a perfect example of it.
perfect.
okay,
Yeah, perfect.
all right.
Yeah.
And it's more or less a carrot and a stick type of thing. And
Okay, so.
Thank you.
so
I
it
thought
sounds,
we go this way.
yeah, it sounds to me, Jerry, you're in
ready to get
favor.
to-
Mark, you in favor?
I am too, I don't know why we stopped.
All right.
We should have kept going with it.
Okay, move on.
Peter and Ed, you guys in favor of it?
Yes,
Then let's
definitely in
move.
favor.
Now, the list of goals that MAPC came up with, does anybody have any exclusions they want to see off that list? Because I think the list is pretty concise.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the accessory dwelling thing. I thought that was,
So we have time to do one, maybe two for town meetings, so did I hear
I think
inclusionary zoning is?
will dominate all of our time between now and the middle of March to get some.
yeah,
So we put all our focus on
Yeah.
that.
start with the
That'd be my recommendation.
Okay,
8 AM meetings.
Cool.
then what's the next step at that point? We hire somebody to help with draft
I will
this?
get proposals for you to consider. That the person that we would have had done the work, Jenny Raid at MAPC, just took a job as Director of Community Development
Oh,
for the
that's-
town of Arlington. so-
Do we want to, now that we have somebody that's gonna be doing the master plan, don't we want to?
I would want to look at our RKG as a natural link, another one that we,
Yeah, I'm sorry, especially since Judy, our project
Judy,
manager, just did Beverly's
Judy
inclusionary
Barrett
zone.
is like the person.
Yes,
in
we need to hook them
Commonwealth
both
that's
together.
housing Work for private consultants, so I can't think of anybody better to do it. so.
Great, make it happen.
You guys knew that Judy Barrett was the person on the IKG team that led it? Yeah, she is.
She's it. She is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make it
that's,
happen.
that's like
She
a real
was
plus.
She's who anybody would ask.
Okay.
Yeah, just, it's not rocket science. You
Right.
just gotta reconstitute the list, we approve it,
And
done.
and since we're going in that direction for the master plan, it makes,
Sense to keep
Awesome.
both
it
together.
makes just every bit of sense to use them, start using them now.
Now, Keith, since we only have 2 months before the middle of March, and that's when the warrant closes, that really doesn't give us enough time to get Judy online or get this
I
whole
get a
thing.
side contract on this. I mean,
Can you?
Well, I'd say we'd have two things going on. One is we'll be negotiating the contract for the master plan.
Yep.
But also, we can negotiate a side contract for, a few $1,000s to get the.
Do you think she has adequate time to get something together for us for the next meeting?
I do because,
Sure you said
because
so.
as was said, it's not rocket science for any of us, and it's certainly not for she who does
Right.
housing consultant work at the A level.
Perfect.
In Massachusetts, so.
So would it be fair to say that if we got this in by May, any development like, anybody who's been in front of us, it's not currently finished, could take advantage of it in a way they hadn't thought of before?
Could take advantage of it, yes.
Good.
So it's in our interest to move.
Right, if someone
sooner
wanted
rather than
to,
later.
yes, before they, the shovel hits the ground. that
If they
it
broke,
would-
yeah, before
If they
the
want it.
ground
It would
breaks.
give
Yeah.
them another
Yeah.
option to consider. Yeah.
All right, make it happen.
All right,
Thank you.
we need a vote on this?
I
Of
think
any
we have
sort?
enough direction.
Yeah.
I think we have the consensus, you want something brought back, and so we'll go and get it for you.
Great.
So we can get around February's meeting and go from there.
Yeah, February's meeting, we'll have it soon
Yeah,
enough so we
Yeah,
can,
let us put something on
read
February
it
meeting, and we will have something for you by then.
and then make the
Wouldn't
decision.
surprise me if we get something in the next week.
That's great.
For you to look at, so.
All right, good, all good
We talked
news.
to Judy about it, but it's bad.
Well, thank you, Keith.
Have at it, get moving next.
Thanks all.
Yep.
Are you flying out tonight, Peter, or is it tomorrow?
In 15 minutes, I gotta be in the airport.
All right, let's see, 7:40. We have a continued public hearing for 39 Air Road, 200 New Estate Road. It's a modification of the Aquifer Water Resource District Special Permit and Site Plan.
Just the one I missed, right?
Did you watch it?
Yes.
Reader's Digest.
Just lots of fun.
So, okay,
We're trying to save trees.
we have some paperwork to sign first.
Some so Bruce can get paid and big
We have the Mullen forms from Mr. Mullen and Mr. Portante for, they had missed the last.
Is it very well?
Yeah, really.
So, to explain what just happened, Mr. Potante and Mr. Mullen, this is the last meeting.
Missed the first public hearing for both this 39 Air Road and for the 53 Air Road public hearings. They have reviewed the transcripts of the last meeting, brought themselves up to speed on what transpired at the last meeting so that you can now participate and vote on the project.
Good. And sign the appropriate paperwork.
Yeah.
Great. So we're back to a full board?
Yeah, I'm bored out of my gourd. Not really, I'm having fun tonight.
All right, let's see. Bruce, are you on deck yet?
I am.
This one?
Good evening. The plans that you have before you are the plans that we submitted several weeks back. Just gave you a nice, clean, fresh copy. The only difference between what you have before you and what we presented a month ago was, a month ago I showed you the architectural plans whereby they flip-flop the building from left to right, so that the office was, as you stand at the road and look back at 39 Air Road, new treatment, or not treatment, storage building in the rear. The office went from the left side of the building to the right, and the wash bay went from the right side of the building to the left. And basically, I had minor changes to the grading to reflect that, and moved the storage tank for the wash bay, and moved the septic tank for the office to the opposite sides of the building, and that's it. So, it's what we presented a month ago.
Now-
Peter?
Now, this is, can you describe where this is and who this is for?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were in a continuation
This
from
is-
the last meeting.
It is, but there might be some new audience watching.
Okay.
All three people.
Well, you know, we are still the highest
We're
rated
number one?
TV
Oh, my God.
TV program, yeah.
Watch this. Should I set up these?
Check this out.
No.
Okay.
No.
We're talking about 39 Air Road, AKA 200 New Estate Road, Littleton Light and Electric, DPW and NEPA site. Back several years ago, 2010, we obtained a special permit for work in the Aquifer Protection District and a site plan modification to put in the NEPA building and to put in a 96,000 square foot addition. The 96,000 square foot storage building, 9,600 square foot storage building, thank you, has been replaced in this modification with a 16,700 square foot storage building, and that's what we were here discussing a month ago, and that's what we're here for tonight. Minor modification in that they flip-flopped the building left to right, kept it in the same location, sits behind the existing warehouse and work building that they have.
So the septic went from one side of the building to the other?
Septic tank, the building sewer went from one side to the other.
Field
It's
is still
tied
the same
into the
place?
septic field that is already there. The same employees from one building moving over to another building.
I think that's great. I accept everything he said so far, and I'd like to make a motion.
Draft decision for your use. If you can remember, last meeting, you couldn't vote because there were only 3 board members sitting at that time. Now with the full board, there's a
So can we
draft.
vote now?
Due to the the Mullen rule, we've all taken care of that.
We did it just for him.
Okay.
If you weren't absent so often.
Second.
You're talking
All those in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, so we need a motion to
Closed public hearing.
close public hearing. Yes.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public hearing. All in
Close.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Then we need a motion to accept the modification to the Aquifer Water Resource District Special Permit Site Plan.
So moved.
200 New Estate Road.
Okay, so there's a draft decision, the Water Resource District Special Permit decision. I used the similar conditions from when the last time the site was approved, groundwater monitoring if needed, no parking of vehicles on unpaved surfaces, no sodium de-icing, and the walkways should be clear. Nothing unusual at this site that needs any more specific conditions, in my opinion. And Bruce looked through the decision, didn't have any questions. Well,
So it is written, so it shall be done?
Very good. So do we have a motion to move this?
Yes.
We already make a motion?
Good. We have a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to
All those in
grant the
favor?
water resource special permit. All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it.
Aye.
Good.
and similar for the site plan modification.
Ditto.
Do we have a motion to approve the
So
site
moved.
plan modification? And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Bruce?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nice work, big fella.
We'll get them later.
All right. Now,
Grab your hat.
we have a few minutes
Why, have we caught up?
between now and the next item on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, what is the next thing?
Oh, yeah, board
Has
business.
has everybody taken a look at the draft meeting minutes for November 12th and December 10th? Thanks, Bruce.
Goodbye with your handy.
And if you have, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve as is.
Second.
Now, that's for the November 12th
Lose
and
my
December
glasses to
10th?
read your glasses.
Jerry, is that for both of them?
Yes.
All right.
Aye.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. So be it.
Last one is at like 8:20, right? And then we're done? Is that right? 8 o'clock? 8:20 is our last one.
Their bills and
Read the
payroll.
numbers.
Yeah.
So what do you, is this the first time you've ever been to CVS and bought cheaters?
It's the first time I've ever, I just noticed it
How old are you?
like 2 days ago.
Your eyes went like that 2 days ago.
So I've been wearing them for 2 days and it's, my eyes starting to clear up. I think that's straight.
It's called getting old. Shut up. Have you
I
hit,
have more titanium in my body than.
have you hit 40 yet?
Yeah.
See, that's when your eyes start to go. 42, 43. They're falling apart.
Bad joint.
They're falling apart.
That's it.
Get out while you can.
What's that?
Maren, just one? Oh,
Yeah,
it's
just
coming.
one bill
Yeah.
and the payroll's coming.
I'm telling you, I could sell my parts like.
Don't tell Jerry on your street, he'll be stealing your titanium.
Right now to like.
Jerry doesn't have any titanium in his yard, does he?
Prosthetics, like 30 grand. Serious bucks. It's cobalt titanium.
Our tax dollars at work.
Oh, no, that's insurance.
Oh, it's-
I ain't going to
Why, you-
If I had to go to the VA to do that, I'd still be in there.
What did you want? Did you want the military green camouflage ones?
Dave hasn't spoken to me.
Could you imagine?
Oh, I would go there.
I'd still be in the hospital.
I'd still be waiting to go into the hospital.
Huh?
I had a guy from Vermont waited to go into the hospital, and he ended up dying, and they called him a year and a half after he was dead, said,
I wouldn't even consider.
"You can come in now."
It's horrific.
Would they have still
We treat our
would they have
illegal
given you the
aliens
right-
better than we treat our
right stuff?
veterans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went to the Lowell VA hospital to get a new car. An hour. I'm ashamed of it.
I take
Still
smoking
haven't
too.
gone back.
I go to the
Go get a
one-
passport, go
I think
to Portsmouth and get a passport. Want to see fluid emotion.
I go to, I take smoking to the one in, here,
Wellington Drive.
Bedford, the VA in Bedford.
Yeah,
That's the better one. It's,
it is a better
Have you caught on to our last few applicants?
Am I caught on to how he did it?
Boom, boom, boom.
Well, yeah. I was actually,
HDMI?
HDMI.
Yeah. But Maren, nothing on Wilson Lane, McIntosh, Orchards, distribution of the point?
Nope, no updates.
Okay,
Have you seen?
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah,
Have you looked at the building?
yeah.
What is this?
Isn't that cool?
It's a cool looking building.
I haven't seen it yet.
What is?
Blue ink,
Distribution
Distribution
drive.
Next to,
Talk about a big
Did you go
building.
back there, drive back there?
before I change the screen, you might want to just see,
Thank you.
that's where I grew up in South Africa. It's a 5,000 dairy cattle farm. Let's see if they do.
Oh, he's got the circular.
Had to get up early to milk all them in one day, huh?
5,000 cows.
Is it all automated?
All automated, yeah. I mean, there are like 250 people living on that farm.
Any
Well, it's not so bad
lions?
then. 5 per each.
That's mixed
Any
use
lions
zoning
or
right
elephants
there.
or
That's-
anything?
They were leopards.
Leopards?
They used to get the sheep.
Ah,
You're from Montana?
what do they use to protect the sheep?
Cowboys.
Llamas.
Oh,
Rifles.
did they use donkeys or llamas around here? they use those. Can they use them down there?
There's a difference between a llama and
leopards-
a coyote and a llama and a leopard.
Yeah.
You see the sheep farm up the street has.
You know what the Irish use for?
All right, 8 o'clock.
For sunscreen?
8 o'clock.
All right, here we
The
go.
Town of Littleton
Back-
Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 14th, 2016, at 8 PM in room 103 of Town Hall at 37 Shattuck Street to consider the application for approval of a definitive subdivision plan for a 6-lot residential development known as Wellington Drive, located near 120 Goldsmith Street pursuant to the subdivision control law, MGL C.14, Section 81K-81GG in Town Code, Chapter 249, subdivision of land regulations. The project site is located off the easterly side of Goldsmith Street, near 120 Goldsmith Street, and shown on Assessors Map U-11, parcel 61, approximately 21.3 acres. The definitive subdivision plan shows 6 new lots with 610 linear feet of new roadway. Property owner and applicant is W.D. Chisholm, president on the Rail Farm Company, Inc. Application and plans can be viewed at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed application and plan should provide written comment prior to the public hearing or should appear at the time and place designated. The town of Littleton does not discriminate on the basis of disability. Further, a signed translation at this meeting will be provided for the hearing impaired upon request by contacting Maren Tuahill at littletonma.org or at 978-540-2425, 1 week prior to the meeting date.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Who shall speak for the proposers?
Thank you
What-
very much. My
yeah.
name is Ian Rubin. I'm from Mark Ian Rubin in Acton. I have with me here tonight Steve Marsh. He is representing the owner on the rail farm.
Yeah.
Now, what we're proposing here is a 6-lot subdivision, as you described, and this is the cul-de-sac, 610-foot cul-de-sac. 2 of the lots are on the far side of some wetlands. What you see there, the greenish, the bluish green in the middle is the wetlands. Surrounding the wetlands, the darker green is the woods, the lighter green is lawn or places where there's been some development like septic and so on. The driveways, the 6 lots as you see where the houses are located, 2 of the lots have common driveways. The access to these lots are not necessarily starting on their own property, so there are easements provided to get to their lots. There's lot 1, as you can see on the left. That's a standard lot. Lot 2 is reduced frontage. Lot 3 is a standard lot. Lot 4 is reduced frontage. Lot 5 is a standard lot, and lot 6 is reduced frontage. It's all conform to the zoning bylaws.
Yeah, well, that's one of the issues.
The size of the lots are obviously conforming even depending on percentage of wetlands and amount of uplands. So that is according to zoning. Now, the drainage for the road is there's a detention pond, which I'll show you on the next plan. This is the first site plan, which is the left portion of the property. We have here, this is the detention pond. Which if I go in there, get a better idea exactly where that detention pond is. This is the detention pond right here. runoff from the road, there are catch basins, manholes, and so on, down to a treatment manhole, storm scepter to the catch basin, the overflow over here. This is actually a retention pond. The purpose of a retention pond in this subdivision is to ensure that there's no increase in volume of runoff. I can also show you here on these lots there are septic systems. We are on public water and private sewer. Here are the septic systems here, 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 and over here for these 4 lots. To show you what's on the other 2 lots, I have to bring up the next plan. Let's see where that drainage goes. We've got a septic system right here and a septic system right here. Now, this over here is another retention pond collecting water down this driveway, pre-treating it with a 4-bay and a retention pond overflowing over here, eventually into the wetlands. So that kind of gives you a general overview. What I also want to show you, though, is what the existing property looks like prior to development. And the best way to see that is with these plans. Okay, here again, it's the same wetlands. There's no real change in the wetlands. This is an existing car path, actually in the same locations to where the driveway for lots 5 and 6 is. This is existing woods. What's not shaded here is existing. It's kind of poor grasslands. It's been this is a horse paddock right here, very well trodden and so on, exposed earth. This is a somewhat used cart path over here, crossing the wetlands. These wetlands have been, there was some material removed, so at this point it's just grass growing there. If we go on to the next sheet, so here we're crossing the wetlands on, this is where the cart path goes today. This is all cleared, used as compost heaps at this point, dumping general cuttings that they put there. And then this is the existing woods with a few areas of clearing here. So I think that gives you a pretty good overview of what we're presenting here tonight. We understand, of course, that we don't expect a closing tonight. This still requires review, a peer review. So I'll leave it up to you to ask any questions at this point.
Do you have a wetlands crossing here where the road is, the cart park?
There, yes, there is
Like a
Sure.
culvert or
Yeah,
something?
Steve
Go
Bush, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little history, we had an enforcement order on this particular property. We ended up having Conservation Commission came down and said that we were working in the wetlands. We have a composting permit to cross. There is an existing dirt road there. We had to go through an extensive study with the Conservation Commission, so that's already been done. That road does exist. It is not a wetland, so we are basically going through a wetland over an upland area to access our uplands in the back. So that's already been established through the Conservation Commission already.
Steve, is there a culvert underneath that,
Yes,
that
there is.
section?
Yes,
Could you
there
show
is.
us where that culvert is?
Sure.
You want to, yeah, go there.
Actually, it's probably easier for me to just show you. It's approximately in this area right here, which is really where the pinched area is.
So it's the higher wetlands going towards the 2 upper lots?
Yes, yeah. So right, yes, right in that general
Where
area.
the two wetlands almost meet. Yeah.
Yep. Many, many years ago, the road was put in for the farm. So it actually went from 2A all the way out to Goldsmith Street, according to the Kimbells.
Is there water there now?
No, well,
ice.
there's an intermittent stream, and if you go out back there now, no, it's pretty dry. But it has been designated because of vegetation, just to, in addition to which, we've been doing a 3-year getting rid of the invasives there as part of our enforcement order through DEP and CONSCOM.
Now, when did you come to us last? Was it last spring or
It was-
a year ago?
It was about 5 months ago.
Right. And at that time, I know I asked if there would be a pathway that would connect the Cooper property to your property. I don't see that pathway,
Oh.
pathway.
Somebody had mentioned that, it
That was
probably
me.
was you. No, I've been speaking with the people up at the Cooper piece, and because that's so contentious, originally I had spoke with them, and as a matter of fact, I even offered that back piece to them, along with, through Sudbury Valley trustees, just recently. So we wouldn't have to go through that, and then maybe they would be able to pull their project down and save that vista. But they're not interested in doing that. So they're moving forward with their project, and they want nothing to do with our project.
But that doesn't answer our question. I mean, I was very interested in seeing some kind of a connection to that point, should the town
They're
require.
going to propose, they're proposing one as part of their plan. If you look at their plan, it stubs right to the end of our property.
But there's nothing to carry it from your property over to Goldsmith Street, public pathway.
So would you like a path there, or would you like a roadway through there?
A connection that bike,
Sure, we can do
bike
that.
walk path
Okay,
that
yeah,
will
we can provide that.
get from that back of the Cooper place to Goldsmith Street.
Absolutely, we can take care of that. Yeah, we can make that, so.
All right, good. I don't have any more questions, do you?
The driveway for lots, was it 4 and
5 and 6.
5 and 6? It's 20 foot wide, that road.
No, it's not. Those houses will have to have a sprinkler.
Well, hold on a second.
Okay.
It will have 20-foot cleared, it will not be 20 feet wide. I just had to go through this issue with the Acton Fire Department and the State Fire Marshal's office regarding the width for them to get their fire apparatus through. And as long as we provide them with 20 feet wide and whatever the vertical height was. I think it was
13.6.
14.6.
13.6.
Where's the Littleton Fire Department say?
I don't know.
So if it's going to be
Yes.
that fashion, what's the distance to those houses from the road?
Ian?
Question.
3.5 miles.
And actually,
It's
they've already...
very long.
Right,
It is.
they've already
So-
started that discussion, so
I saw the note, I saw the
right.
email, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Right, do we have an idea on the length on that?
The idea
It's
of
over
what you're
1,000.
talking about,
Yeah, it's
the
about 1,000 feet.
I think it's over 1,000.
Okay, yeah.
So,
there's 1,000, right, it's about 1,500.
right. So not only that, the distance alone, you may have to have a cistern out there
And then-
because of the length.
Yes.
So on top of the cistern, the road itself, at a minimum, would have to be 14-foot wide paved with the remainder road grade surface, road grade material
Yes.
to, equal that 20-foot all the way out and be maintained year-round. So there can't be trees planted in that buffer zone. It has to be able to be plowed and cleared.
Yes.
That additional.
I just did another one, almost identical to this. It's 1,100 feet in Acton, and like I said, I can provide you with what they said and the State Fire Marshal's office said too. But that would be fine with us. We could certainly do that.
Yeah, every town has their slight variation.
Yeah,
We
you
also
also
go with the
the
marshal.
same thing
Yep.
down.
You would tell them about the
Same
It
thing.
would have to be,
The cistern, the sprinkler system.
feet or
Yep.
something like that.
I think they was 13 feet or something. The sprinkler was a
It's gonna
13
be a
feet.
fire truck around that whole place.
So,
and you'd also have to have the T-turns, which T-turns are not on there,
right.
at each house and most likely at the intersection as well.
I think if it's sprinklered, we'll do it. We'll do it for you.
You'd have to have the T-turn,
Yes.
whether it's sprinkler or not.
So that's easy to accommodate, that's, we can take care of that.
Is that, can you
Any,
go through wetlands, get fucked?
Well, yeah, that's kind of my question. You have
So-
And
lot
that's-
4 and lot 5 are going right through the wetlands. you know,
5 and 6, sorry.
5 and 6, no, 4 and 5.
It's like there's three of them.
The frontage here and here,
Yeah.
going right to the wetlands, and you're also
Yeah,
putting a
you're right.
detention pond right in the middle of it. Our bylaw says you have to be able to show that you can access these properties through your frontage. If you're putting a detention pond in there, there's no way you can access the property. And you also, you've got hundreds of feet of wetlands there, so there's no way you're gonna be able to access those 2 lots, so I don't think those 2 lots, in the configuration you're showing us to right now, are viable. Also, isn't there endangered species on this property?
Yeah, we've already worked with Natural Heritage.
Do you have a
And-
determination from them?
We do, yeah, we're working with them, and basically what we had to do is, originally they wanted box culverts through there, then they changed up, and basically what they want is just, which works for us as far as the fire department is concerned, they want the critters to basically walk over the driveway.
What about, is conservation seeing the subdivision? Forget the composting and everything else, if they
Well,
have a look at
I'm
this?
permitted through the state for the composting, they're aware of it.
No, but has this been sent to?
No, it has not been sent to
They haven't seen
conservation.
anything about the wetlands, the,
Well, no, the wetlands have been delineated, and that's etched in stone, so they're very familiar with that road as well.
well, like I said, I still have a problem with lot 4 and 5.
How does 6 fit into your,
Well, all right, I have a problem with 6 too, but
Well, 6 can access it through its own property if that's a requirement, so.
6,
6 is
I think
by
they've done-
itself, but 5,
4 and 5 isn't.
yeah.
Yeah, 4 and 5, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, 6 against the road there, I guess you can't, 6 is, it's 4 and 5. You first lay the detention pond right in the middle of it, right in the frontage, and then you go into all the wetlands there.
So, lot 4, your frontage comes over, I don't know, this, I'm blind in one eye, I can't see out of the other. This is one side, so it comes to this circle right here, and that's where your frontage is right there.
Yep.
Okay. So lot 3 is from here to there.
That one's okay.
Lot 4 is that little piece there, that's 150 feet.
No, that's 35. It's a reduced
35,
frontage lot.
because that's, and this wouldn't be called the hammerhead lot either though, right?
No, that's got a full frontage, but that's the deck, and that's, we have to access the lot.
What, what, if-
Woofta.
what do you guys think about if we, let's say you did this open space, you gave him 6 lots?
Well, I don't think he's not getting 6 lots the way it is now, he's getting
I'm just
4.
I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah,
If you went to open space, took those 4 and 5 off the table, gave him better density up front, and put the rest open space.
But he doesn't have 6 now, Peter's right.
No, I'm not talking, I'm not talking about the number, I'm talking about the concept. Concept of if you used an open space, gave him more density up front. left the
why
back
should we
alone.
give him 6 when he can barely get
I'm
4?
not arguing about the number.
I know
I'm
that,
just talking about.
but what
I'm with you, Jerry.
I understand what you're saying.
But he can get the 4 without an open space plan, the other ones just don't work.
no, what Jerry's saying is more than 4 up front.
Yeah, but he only has 4 right now.
But
We can argue about the number, but.
Yeah,
but he can also put one in the back.
it's a thought.
He can get lot 6. He's
But he
got the
can't get-
frontage, and he can access it because he's not
He
crossing.
can't
the
get
line.
5 and 4.
I understand what you're saying,
So
but
if
if
we
we
can
want to
get
protect
4.
lands, I would say we would want to protect 5 and 6.
Aye.
So if we can get him to move 6 out to the front and get 5 or 6 up front and protect the lands in the back, which do protect, they can join to a piece of property that the town, I think in general, is interested in protecting.
That's what I'm saying.
So if we move 6 to the front,
Well, there's nothing saying the town's gonna have that property.
correct, I agree, but it's still in the best
So
interest of
we're
the
gonna
town.
turn around and give away 1 or 2 lots for something that's really kind of suspect to begin to with.
But look at the
So that
size,
the
look at the
town-
size of lot 6.
But
And then
it
look at-
doesn't, so let's assume the town does not buy the land back there.
Yeah, but
We just
no, no,
secured
that's
somebody
not-
else's.
He's still gonna prove that he can get
Huh?
there, he's still gonna
I'm not
get his
talking about town
wetlands
buyer, I'm
crossed.
talking about open
So,
space.
I know we can. The reason I know that is because that before Mr. Chisholm owned this property, I had permission to hunt it. I know that road intimately. It
Really?
exists.
Yeah, it
Yes.
exists, but
So,
So, no, I mean, I'm just saying, if you're trying to make it work,
I
mean, and again, Jerry, I'm with you, we're trying to make something work, but we're offering a proposal or an option that gives them a portion of what they're looking for, and in return, the town gets to protect some land.
It's less infrastructure for them anyway, so it's,
If I remember correctly, this once was proposed as equestrian lots, if I'm
It
not
was, I
mistaken.
had come in before and had proposed actually 5 lots on this, but when Mr. Montanori said that, you wanted a conventional subdivision, because I was open to that. And before I went back to the engineer, I said, well, no, it's conventional, because I'm coming in with the Nagog property also. And I had come in with that one as well. And he said, look, we want to just do the 5 lots here, and I wanted to keep the
What I
road
said-
private.
What I said to you is you had to show frontage, because you didn't have any frontage. You were trying to put all 5 lots on what was basically enough for 1 lot frontage. That's why you had to build a road to get your frontage. Okay, you don't have enough frontage there to put 6 houses there, as it sits right now. You only have 150 feet of road frontage right there, that's all you have. So that's what I asked you to do, is to show us more frontage. I'm not opposed to an open space plan here, but I just think it has to make sense to the people that live around it, for starters, in what you can actually build out there. It has to be a balance between both of those things. I'm not saying 4 is the right number, and I'm not saying 6 is the right number. It has to make sense on both sides.
Right.
hey, we have a comment. Department head.
Just with the discussion you're having, I think the top right of that, the white, isn't that say Town of Littleton land
It does.
along Lot 6? You're saying if you get the Cooper farm, but you already own land adjacent to it,
Right, so if we protect lot 6, and it's already adjacent to town land, we're just gonna expand town land.
That's what you would want to do anyway, I would think.
Right.
So especially that kind of land. that
Exactly.
Falls in nicely.
That would
That
end up
falls
right
over
at
the
the
back
circle,
side of
which
that
would give
land,
us
which you
access
can't
we
see
need to
from-
the Cooper property.
You can't see it from,
Good point.
Route 2A.
Right.
I don't have a problem with open space, just like making sense.
Well, I'm saying if we worked with them on open space, make it economically viable.
The expense to go all the way
That's
back
good.
there is almost going to.
We win, they win.
I agree.
And we would not be opposed to that,
It's not.
That's interesting.
Again,
Car path over it.
we have had discussions with the people that have the property, the Cooper property under agreement.
I don't care whether you drove up there or not.
This particular
I used to ride my
juncture.
snowmobile through Westford Town Forest.
We had
Nice
discussions,
wide
because
road.
actually the board had asked me that, have
Just
had I
because the guy
spoken.
drove his car.
And we have, and
Right
had
back
negotiations
there,
with
build
them.
those stone walls.
At this
That's
particular
why
point,
there's
they're moving
It's
forward
all
as far as they're
roads.
concerned, they're doing the Cooper piece.
So think it through, I mean, that's what I would ask. I would ask that we ask the applicant to think that proposal through, what's economically viable in an open space proposal.
We would not be opposed to that, and that's really kind of what we were trying to achieve when we first came in.
And lot number 6 would be the targeted lot to leave.
6 and
as
5 what?
Well,
open
5
space.
is-
Five and
is-
six, is really what you're trying to preserve.
Peter, you on board with that?
They come back with a concept plan for open space.
It connects to your piece already, I mean, the town does own the piece like Mr.
Right.
Klein just
Mr. Klein,
suggested.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Am I open to it?
Are you
I'm open to it.
agreeable to it? Good.
I'm open to it.
And Mark?
I said I was open to it, yeah, I'm not convinced about 6 though.
But no, with this,
we didn't say 6, that's what we're talking.
I'm open to, I think this lends itself perfectly to an open space plan.
It does. But also, understand, before we go, I'm not saying giving something away to you, all right?
Yes, certainly,
I'm
I
not-
understand.
I'm not trying to hang you with your own words either, or myself. But if 5 and 6, you can't do anything with it anyways.
I think we can do with 6, we can. Or I could make that one big
No,
lot.
5 and 4, not 5 and 6.
Yeah.
5 and
Okay.
4.
4 and 5.
Okay.
But I could make 6 and 5 one big lot, essentially.
Yeah, you could. Well, within
How does that
reason.
help, how does that help the town?
How's it help you?
Yeah.
Well, I can get some money probably for, one big lot, another farm back there.
Another
We
farm?
we could be maybe a little,
It's a beautiful piece.
That is.
yeah,
we could be liberal with the offsets.
that's right.
And we're willing to do, we're willing to work with you on that. We would love to
And
do
the,
it. We'd like to
and
do
the
it.
frontage.
Well, you know how I feel about it. Every time you put a
I
house
just
up,
think
it
the
costs the
number's
town
gonna,
money.
number, whether it's gonna be 4 or 5, I don't care. That's where it's.
It's not going to cost the town money.
No, I'm speaking of every time a residence gets billed, it costs the town money. Student, for children in the school system, da-da-da-da.
Pete,
Read it down.
Peter, we have to stick to what's on the table,
My
Pete.
opinion is my opinion. I can share it with anybody who wants to listen to me. That's not the point. The point is if you can get 6, you can get 4, if you can get 5, you can make one lot giant, it's entirely up to him. But I've already made my position on how I feel about, if he can only get 4, then what advantage does the town have by giving him 5? Because he can only get 4.
The advantage
So
is-
now is the open space. So now we have that discussion.
Yes.
Am I open to it? Yes.
I
Okay?
can show that Peter
All right.
is open to it.
Ta-da.
Well, we made some headway today.
I think we did, and so we'll head back to the drawing board, and we'll come in with the open space,
Great.
and trying to leave that alone back there, and that might give you some leverage with the Cooper piece maybe later on. whatever.
That's great. So,
I think you have some residents here that had, wanted to raise some issues with the layout. So
Oh,
It
yes.
would be good if we could hear that before we move on.
perfect. Is there anybody from the audience who wants to comment on what we have here?
No, our big reason for being here tonight is we live on Laurel Road, which abuts Kimlock property. And we were just wondering the configuration of the development and if there was any possibility that a right-of-way would be coming out onto Laurel Road for traffic.
Oh, it doesn't look like it with this. Yeah,
No,
No,
Yeah.
not the way this was laid out.
yeah.
In fact, wetlands and all, doesn't seem to be a problem at all.
That's good. Any other comments from the,
Wetlands going through on an upland road.
great. Any other comments from the audience? Hearing none?
There were two neighbors that stopped in the office to look at the plans. They were both concerned with leaving some of the vegetation that's along the rear of their property lines. They're from up on Goldsmith Street.
Would that have been the Capuchis?
I couldn't tell you the
Yeah, on
names.
Goldsmith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they were concerned about, their views from their backyard.
So, just
So-
considerations.
Yeah, consideration of screening.
Yeah, I think that there's ample screening there. I think that's going to be something that we'll have to look at, but we'll certainly take that into consideration, because we're going to have to re-look at, in order to accommodate, a cluster, we'll probably have to use a shared septic, which we have ample testing in, both areas, actually. So I think we can do that. It doesn't seem like that would be anything impossible to achieve.
A little buffering.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You're out of here.
yeah.
we can do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
And
Sean.
next,
Continue.
Continue to
we have to
the next,
vote to continue.
I'd like to make a motion to continue to our next.
All right. Motion and second to continue the public hearing.
To February 11th.
February 11th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mark?
I said aye.
Good. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, chief.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Now,
Why do you say that?
8:20, Littleton Fire Department. Fire station update by Chief Wadzinski.
What's his name, so you can get out of here? Chief, what's his name?
Wadzinski?
There you go. Is that like, where the heck are we?
Is he in?
I'm back on his meds. I know why he's here.
All right, hey,
How come you guys have your name in ski all the time?
please, wait,
Mr. Marsh,
we have
we got another hearing to do.
a meeting going here. Okay. All right, Scott, you're on board, on
All
deck.
right, just a quick recap on the fire station project as it's coming forward this spring for design. We roughly, there's been different renditions and recommendations even as far back as when they did the police station. There were some conceptual models to join in that facility when they were doing that that were scrapped at the time. So back in 2013, February 2013, we started our feasibility study, went through, evaluated the entire facility, found the problems with the building, which we can see here as far as in the garage, the space between the apparatus and the gear. There's not the appropriate space when members are getting dressed and the apparatus are leaving. People get clipped with the mirrors. NFPA recommends, or for the new code, it's actually 20 feet between each piece of apparatus. Gear is supposed to be in its own room. It's not supposed to be on the apparatus floor, exposed to contaminants from the exhaust of the vehicles. On top of that, you're required to have an exhaust system for your vehicles to remove that from the building. On the left picture on the top is a trailer that was put in 2 years ago in the rear of the building. That's the living quarters for the 24-hour staff. We don't have any space in the existing building to accommodate around-the-clock coverage. And then the rear garage, about a year and a half ago, they put rubber roofing over the roof just to at least Band-Aid it for now. Every storm we had, you could shovel the shingles off the ground. But other issues that we're dealing with are the doors need to be replaced. They're rotting, the siding is rotting off. It's just not an appropriate sized building. Which this is pretty much everything here that we were just talking about, the temporary rubber roof and the trailer. Out behind that rear garage, we have additional trailers that are full of equipment, and unfortunately, about a year and a half ago, we lost one trailer with the snow caved in the roof. Part of the new building will address that as far as having some storage. We went through several renditions of the station. We had all the abutters in, so we got some useful feedback, multiple open houses with that, and part of the objective was to kind of make the character of the station, match the neighborhood. During this meeting with the abutters, the number one thing they wanted was to find out if we're going to move, if we could move off-site. We checked out all the town-owned property. Anything that was 2 acres and larger, there were only a few available. The one that was on top was the Morgan property. As we began to get rough estimates on that, it was just over $1 million to run the utilities just up the road to get to the field. That wasn't including raising the site piece of property. So the selectmen voted to keep it at 20 Foster Street. So we expanded this a little bit more using the existing building. The existing building would be gutted out, and then there'd be additions put onto it. To the right, going into what's the existing parking lot now, would be a community meeting space, single story. Some of the, like in the bottom left, you can see the garage bays. The bays would now face Fay Park and face Wilderness Road. And then on the bottom left picture, on the right side of that, you can, right in the middle is the two-story part is a training tower, and then to the right of that is a carport. We'd be able to put our trailers underneath there to keep them out of the weather and kind of protect them a bit more.
What's in this training, what do you call it, a training what?
It's like a training portion of the building, two-story. It would be about 25 by 25. Fire escapes on the inside. It's a portion of the building where we could throw ladders, do ladder training to the windows. Over the carport, you can actually see a railing on top of there.
Right.
There would be like a doorway that went out there, so we could do evolutions that went out onto a platform. The sprinkler system, there'd be a mock sprinkler system hooked up to that, where like a standpipe, when you come into a commercial building, you can see the caps. We'd be able to tie into that, charge a sprinkler system inside.
Charge the hose, and you'd be outside with the hose, so you could
Exactly.
actually do the work.
How about parking
We'll get there.
for the town?
So, here you go. Right now, on the existing parking lot, which is kind of where the green space would be, there's 20 spaces. By eliminating the old police station and the old rear garage, it goes to the back and would increase the space from 20 to 37. All right?
So what, you know who parks there now, like all the town events, like
Yep.
you got way more than 20 cars parking there during a town
Right,
event.
so, I mean, this doubles the parking space.
Official parking spaces.
Correct, and so there's additional parking in the front, and then they'd still have to park down Foster Street for the large events.
What's this going to do to the church, parking for the church.
Doubles their parking.
But I mean, is it, do they lose any?
No,
No.
they're not going to lose any
Aren't you
parking.
going to the side? Aren't they losing the ones that are on the side? They're going to have to be more in the back.
They're going to just have to walk, so right, see where the arrow is right there?
Yeah.
That's about where their existing parking is right now. So they're going to have to walk another 100 feet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so
Yeah,
it'll be more in the back.
yeah, so it'll be a little bit more of a walk, correct. Yep.
I mean, Jimmy, is there any opportunity to put additional parking out back on the Morgan property? Not just for the fire station, but just for the town?
You
That's
can't
not the
even get
Morgan
to it.
property.
No, I
That-
know.
That's private, that's all private property around that.
That's Morgan's.
This doesn't
Even
abut
would
the
be-
Morgan property.
Way
You're
up.
talking about Wilderness
Forest
Road?
Road, and then you walk left, and
way
then you go,
up there,
that's
though.
not, it's all
That-
private?
That's owned, that's the old Harvey property.
Yeah,
So that is, there's new residents there now.
It's a good 500 feet before you get to Morgan's back there.
Oh, yeah, anyway. Anyway.
No, I was just asking.
So this model actually just kind of gave us the best utilization of the square, of the space. The garage space, here we'll go into the, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but the left side, the existing building is kind of in the middle of that, and then to the right is the training room. Directly behind that, you can see, that's where the trailer is right now. That would be gear storage, decon rooms, which we don't have right now. So when we have some messy calls, you have to do the decon right on, instead of bringing it into the living space or the office space.
Clean it up in the garage bay?
Yeah, we rinse things off in the garage bay or out in the parking lot now. We make do. The left side, we would keep the existing garage, just the front bays, for utility vehicles and like the boats, some of the small stuff. And then the rear half would turn into office space. The garage
Did you
bays,
spend $100,000 on new garage doors there?
They're staying.
they're staying.
Didn't you just spend $100,000 for 2 garage doors?
Yes, and they'll be staying. We wouldn't be changing those.
And they'll have equipment in there. They'll have firefighting equipment in there, but it'll be
Did you do
spare
that job?
equipment.
Did you?
Yeah, I wish I had.
Did you do, yeah. We could have made about 80 grand in a weekend.
And then the garage space themselves, each bay would be 20 feet wide to the current standard, and the bays would be 100 feet deep.
And they drive-through, right?
Two of them would be. The far two would be drive-through, but since we don't have as much access on the left side, it would actually be the smaller apparatus would be able to drive out that side and go around the back.
When you say 20 feet in between vehicles,
Sorry, it would be 20-foot wide bays.
so each
bay-
garage door would be 20 feet wide?
No, the doors would be 14 feet wide, but the bay itself would be 20.
Now, the vehicle is 8 feet 6 inches wide, correct? That's the maximum you're allowed on the road without
Actually,
a,
what's the new engine?
It's 9.4.
you get a special permit every time you drive it down the road?
Yeah, it's called painted red.
Yeah.
Call it a fire truck. Call it painted red and call it a fire truck. He's allowed to do it.
106 inches, I think is the max you're up
Yeah,
to.
the existing, I mean, the old doors that they just replaced, we had 1 inch on each side.
With the new doors
The
even.
new doors are nice. We've eliminated that problem.
Yeah.
But we're limited with height. So, second floor, the second floor is living facilities, so we don't need an elevator for that. It's just for staff to be there around the clock.
Is the space separated between officers and other members of the force?
As
They do
far
have
as
Separate
Sleeping
bunk
bathrooms.
quarters,
Yeah.
yes, all separate rooms.
It's
Yep,
going to have a fireman's pole?
it is.
Just curious.
You want to be the
Seriously?
first down?
Yeah,
No, I wanna be
seriously.
first.
How much is that? Is that made out of brass?
Yes, it is.
Solid?
No.
It's a,
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
The timeline is voted by the board. Spring of 2016, of this year, will be the vote for design. It'll go out to design July, October. November, they'll look to administer the bids. Bids will be back in by March, so that when we come to spring town meeting, we'll be able to vote on have a solid number to vote on for construction. Currently, it's about just over 7.5, including design. So it's 534 for design, which we'll be voting on this spring, and then roughly the $7 million for construction.
Very good presentation, Scott. You got better. You presented to the building committee last week, too.
Yep. So it's trying to make our rounds.
Yeah, very good, doing your homework. And the biggest question from that was, residents okay?
They
Neighbors
are.
okay?
It really helped having the residents in to give in their 2 cents. A couple of them were architects, so we came up with a few more of the features, a little more detail on the building.
Oh, joy.
We definitely got a little bit more buy-in by the involvement.
Yeah, with the overhangs in the corners, it seems to fit really much better. Any questions? Oh,
One point about the parking, just remember that they just fixed 300 King Street, and there's probably 35 or 40 spots. It's not on site, it's one crosswalk away, and it's, just pretend like you were going to the mall, you worked at IBM, you just gotta walk a little further.
oh, for the church.
Yeah.
Well, for anything, even the events at Fay Park.
You tell them where the basketball courts are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have they taken down the
Playground.
castle in the trees?
They're rebuilding. They're fundraising to build a new ADA structure currently.
It's
New
coming
ADUs,
down next October. There was some emails that came out the other day. I think it's.
So why is it gotta be removed? What's wrong with it?
Because it costs more to fix it than it would to replace it.
Just like everything else.
It's old wood. It's old wood.
Scott, thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
To close the meeting?
No,
We got a little more to go.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's Scott.
One question and
Yeah.
one continued public hearing that you need to continue again.
Before Scott goes, Air Liquide's on our next thing. Are you still working with them to
Yes.
try to come to amicable?
We're going through the process right now, as far as the permitting and the requirements between us and the state. It's not, this is due to the size of the storage on that, it's bumped up to the state level now.
Yeah.
So between the both of us, we're laying all the steps out for that,
Okay.
as within the last couple of days, actually.
You see any brick walls?
Not at this time, no.
Very good. All right. Keep working with them.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Night, Jimmy.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mary.
Okay, Air Liquide is going to have revised plans. They were hoping for them this week, so then they'll go to the peer review engineer as soon as they come in. So they have asked for that public hearing to be continued to the February meeting, and we'll try to wrap up any engineering details between now and then.
Very good.
Air Liquide, 53 Air Road.
The hydrogen plant.
Yeah.
Hydrogen storage facilities.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
Air-
I think so.
yeah.
Very good. Any action from us on that?
Yeah, vote to continue the hearing.
Make a motion to vote to continue the hearing to,
I'll second that motion.
We have a
Second.
second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay, and then the question had been raised about whether Green is the only peer review engineer you'd like to use on a subdivision.
On the,
Oh, yeah, I saw that email.
Him, wasn't it,
Do you
Marsh?
want to consider getting quotes from anybody else, or just comfortable with Green and want to use them?
I think Green does a great job. Anybody else have any questions?
Happy with green.
I'm happy with
Look,
Green.
I think you,
I am also, but if this guy wants to have somebody, another peer review,
why tie their hands?
Why?
If they want to put
Let 'em.
Well, officially,
complicated?
we haven't complicated it.
Well, you
somebody-
complicate it because then we have to contract with another engineer.
No, he's looking for some pricing, he wants to see whether or not we're willing to hear from any other engineers, which we could be, correct?
well, he'll bring his own engineer. This is our engineer, our peer reviewer.
Right, this is,
But he pays
He's-
them.
But he pays
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah.
He feels Green's prices are too high.
And I looked at them too. I think they are a little high for the scope of work that they included, but we can
Well,
talk
then-
to him about that.
Well, then you're gonna have to negotiate
There
that
was-
with Green, but he's the one who opened up the ball that The
So
door
why don't we
that,
go back to green and say, you know what, we don't want to open up the can of worms, we like you guys, but can you be a little more
Well,
competitive?
would
Well,
you,
there's one item on here, for
Right.
instance. If you go to your packets, Green has a quote sheet, and they've got, reviewing the package, okay, that's a good price, $135. Performing 1 week, one site walkthrough with the applicant, $270. That's not bad. We perform a review of the plans and details for compliance with the code of Town of Littleton, $1,600. Well, that might be, that's a lot. Review the lotting plans for Chapter 149 subdivision.
well,
That's
why don't we
five-
get this exact same
540.
thing from 2 other engineers and say, listen, this is what we have for prices from others, and say, Green, this is what we got going, this is the standard. Can you match these standards? And if they're that far off of these other people, then we have someplace to go. Otherwise, we say, no, we're happy with Green and their prices are in line. So why don't we just make it open to bid for some other engineers? If nobody shows up,
Well,
it's
Peter,
his
the
ball.
problem with that is we have to open it up
I
for
mean,
bid. We have to go
price
through the whole
checking Green
process.
is different than
Yeah, maybe we just have
opening up
margin
contract negotiations
prices
with
from
other
somebody
engineers.
else.
Right, we're not opening up a contract,
You just want to price check them.
I want price check them, and that way you can, see, but really, if someone comes in and says, I'll do everything that he's doing for half in their reputable place, we hire him because the
But you-
town's saving money.
right, but you
we're
determine,
not.
no.
Not on these particular instances, but the town hires Green to do
evaluate
stuff
for
for
the
us.
town, right.
So
That's
if they're, huh?
That's different.
I'm sure they don't drop their charges for us as opposed to the people that are coming in, they're doing peer reviews on.
Wait a minute.
And we hire Green to
He
do
pays
peer
for
review.
it.
Part,
He pays
yes,
for Green.
right. But the town also pays Green for other things that we use them for, correct?
They designed all the roads. and
Right,
we just
not by
paid.
contract with the planning board, though.
Correct.
Right, okay.
That's but selectmen contract them, not us, right?
And when they went through
It's still our town.
they went
No,
through.
but I'm saying, that's not, just because we price check them for this,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that impacts the contracts they have with the town.
It doesn't mean it does right
Well-
now, but if someone turns around and says, I got a guy doing the work for me for half of what these guys are, why don't you look at them? Because the town should look at it.
Peter, here's what happened. When
I don't want to know all of that stuff. Alls I want to know is, I don't see a problem with us price checking, if that's what you want
I
to call
agree
it.
with
I
Peter.
gotta tell you this.
I agree with that. We should
Do you
price.
mind?
I'm listening.
We
Yeah, go
went-
ahead.
They went to a formal pricing. Jimmy is gone now, but he could explain it. They had 3 or 4 quotes. It was an hourly quote and a task quote, and they came in better than the other 2. And so that's how
we ended up with Green.
them. And they
Okay.
Yeah, but that was
they are
3
using
years
those
ago.
prices today.
Have they raised the prices in 3 years?
I can't tell you that because I haven't seen the last quote.
You know, I agree with Peter, I think
It doesn't hurt
Mara
to
should just
know.
at least check them.
Okay,
Just
and
get a
then-
rough idea, not
Right.
send it out for a full-blown, just get a rough
We
idea.
don't need to take a vote on that. You've got direction, right?
Got the
Good.
recommendation. And the one question was whether or not you needed anybody to review the lotting plan. You've got the surveyor stamp on it. So,
There's the lotting plan.
Portions of the review don't need to be performed.
well, do you want it to be performed? So sometimes you have it in subdivision, sometimes you don't, and I hadn't asked you that question for a while.
You know, they're very good at stormwater stuff.
Right. Drainage goes without
Yeah.
saying, nobody looks at it.
When it comes to fitting into the code of Massachusetts, maybe they can abbreviate that. I mean, the code of Littleton, because they know what the code of Littleton is. And a memorandum of findings, along with a file memorandum of findings, maybe they can combine those
You know-
and give us one.
You know what we've lost sight of? There's 2 different kinds of subdivisions here. There's that subdivision, and then there's Durkee's. Durkee's is bigger, a lot more intense. Maybe we have a schedule and a B schedule. If they come in with something that's pretty straightforward like that, we just get a cursory, check the drainage, make sure it works. We should do some of our own homework like we used to do, and look at it that way. Durkee's obviously is way too much. There's no way any of us have the time to go through the drainage of Durkee's and check.
That sounds good, I agree with that.
We're not.
But not a big one like that, but a little one, a 4 or 5 subdivision lot, maybe we just give them check the drainage, make sure we're not getting ourselves into trouble and move
I agree.
on from that.
I think it's a great
Less
idea.
might be better.
Right, because.
That's where I was going with this.
I think you guys are on the same page.
So talk to Green and just say, look, this is a small project, give us your
We want a
abbreviated
small project price and a big project price.
Yeah,
by combining some of the stuff,
Yeah.
whatever.
okay.
All right. So that satisfy you, Peter?
I think it's a good recommendation.
Or you still wanted to, want to
Jimmy
get some
talk to you?
peer review?
About,
I talked, Jimmy got me on New State
yeah.
Road. Did he talk to you about that? So, I mean, I was talking to Jimmy we were just walking down New State Road. He had discussed concerns about, I don't know if it's decisions we've made in the past on roads, stuff we've waived.
I think it came about because on Durkee, the engineer and the developer went straight to Jim, asking him what waivers he would like or not like to see, which is a really bad position to have Jim put in, because his response, in my opinion, should be, he wants everything according to the subdivision rules and regs. It's
Right.
up to you guys to consider waivers.
Well,
Well, I've always said we
had a
shouldn't
slightly
waive
different
anything.
conversation than that. I mean, I think
Okay.
his concern was that, we waive things like curbing, right? I think he's talking about damage that's done to roadways by his equipment. If it had been, if we had enforced, say, granite curbing, he wouldn't have to deal with that. So he wants to make sure that he's making a recommendation as a department head and that we respect that. And, I gave my own opinion on that, and I just basically said, well, obviously, personally, I would defer to you on your recommendation within reason. But, yeah, we don't want to have him be in any awkward positions.
We'll just have them say, listen, anybody comes to you, what my opinion is, present it to the planning board first, and the planning board will ask me my position. Done.
Which is what I think the current procedure is.
Right.
Again, I think he
Which is
wanted
fine.
some time. He told me he want to have some time, and I think he should be able to speak in his own words to us. I don't want to speak for him.
Yeah.
So, that's all I'm saying. If you want to give him 5 minutes time.
That'd be great.
You want to ask him?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll invite him to come in and talk about
Yeah.
what he'd prefer. in
There's some things that
subdivision.
we don't care about, like the street trees, the spreading of the street trees, the size of them. But there's some nitty gritty that we shouldn't be waiving.
Well,
Like-
some of the things he brought up were.
The granite curbing's one
things
of them.
like swales that are there, like, so if he has to inherit a whole bunch of swales that he's now got to maintain, he's like, look, I'm never going to do it.
Right, I don't have
So
any
even
problem.
though maybe in the design it may sound good on paper, I'm never going to maintain that, so when it becomes ineffective, there's really nothing he can
They'll
do
fill
about
up with
that.
leaves, and then there'll be no swale.
Fill up with ease, I mean, things like if the homeowner has an easement, or they're responsible for maintaining. If they don't, he's not going to enforce that. So, I mean, there's all kinds of little things that he brought up that I think he should speak to us. and
That'd be great, have him make a list of those things, and again, if a homeowner or there's something like that is supposed to do those, then we'll assess a value to what it takes to keep those up, and if we have to hire a private company to go out and take care of those swales once a year, twice a year, mow them, the homeowner will be responsible for that.
Again, I'm not trying to put words in
It's
his
the
mouth.
No, I'm saying that, it's
No,
not
no, I know
him.
you're saying that, but I
Yeah.
think what he was saying is, he said, look, if it's his responsibility to do extra maintenance on something, he doesn't want to do it. He can't do it. He doesn't
That's
have
fine.
staff.
All right, he's stretched out what he's got, never mind the extra stuff.
Yeah, and it's tough.
Okay,
because
that's good.
Even though we can put something like maintenance in a community agreement or a private road agreement, whatever it is, if they don't.
The fire
then-
department said about that road, you can make it 14 feet wide, but I want 20 feet worth of maintained, properly passable product.
I'll say
Right, but
20
as
feet pavement,
safety,
that's what I
they
was
can go
thinking.
in and they can enforce
You can be
that.
done with it. Like, why should
Yeah.
the
But if
fire
you-
department have to worry about coming down there and there be I mean, just pave it 20 feet. He doesn't want to do it, then he doesn't get it, right?
Well, that's part of our regs, isn't it?
No, that's part of the fire code.
It's a fire code,
Fire code.
yeah.
Right.
It's an interpretation of the fire department's
Are
fire
we
code.
done?
Is that it?
Can we
Good?
let all the
Good.
last,
We're all good to say,
last 3 people that stayed up, can we tell them to go to bed now?
There you
And
go.
then
The,
Good night, Littleton.
Your dates.
Motion to
February
close
11, March 10,
meeting.
April 14th. We okay with them?
Sure.
say second.
It's the second Thursday of every month,
Yep.
once a month? Now, sign bylaw, I think I'll bring that up next month.
With the inclusionary, you don't think we're spreading ourselves a little thin?
Sign
No,
bylaw.
we've spread that needs to be addressed. Really, people made a hell of an effort for many,
Right, and there was a reason it didn't go forward, and to beat a dead horse just doesn't make any
well,
sense.
the reason it didn't go forward is because of some of
Right.
the opponents to it. That's part of it. We need to have a signed bylaw, so we don't have,
Right, and if you're going,
one place looks like Las Vegas, and the other one looks like downtown Concord. I'd rather have a little mix. Yes.
The problem is, no one's going
He's
to
right.
enforce it. Roland's not
He's
going to,
right.
he doesn't.
Well,
By having it, it'll, whether it gets enforced or not, at least it's on record.
what was PJ saying about having a poor plan well executed is better than a great plan never executed? So, I think we have a good plan, and we'll find a way to get it executed.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. He's the one who
Good.
ran for
Yeah.
re-election just to get the sign bylaw in.
So,
You.
That's the only reason why I
That's the
ran.
other way.
yeah, all right,
That's what I
so.
do. Can we close the
Can
meeting
you
now
slip-
so I don't have to go
Can you slip
anywhere
that in
further?
towards the end of the meeting, next meeting, Mayor?
Why don't we have it right up front? That way you know it gets done.
Good.
Because right now, I just don't want to.
Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
I don't
Can
care.
anybody
Whatever
say-
Peter wants. What Peter wants, Peter
I'd like to
gets.
make a motion to close the hearing.
Yeah.
Second.
Good.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Go.
Thank you.
I owe you.